Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority. And on behalf of the City of Richmond and wonderful Woodville Elementary School, let's give Woodville a round of applause. Principal Taylor isn't here this evening, but do we have anyone from Woodville staff here? Thank you very much for being here. And of course, on behalf of the staff of Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority, we really appreciate you coming out on this beautiful Tuesday evening. I know how difficult it was for you to leave the sunshine and the nice breeze to come inside and have an opportunity to have a nice conversation with us about the exciting time that we're here to discuss for our Creighton community, our 25th Street and 9 Mile Road area, and our Greater Churchill North area. So tonight we're going to have a few speakers. We have some information for you, and there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. And then we'll talk about some very brief follow-up steps for this first meeting in what will be a series of opportunities that you'll have to come together and work with our community. So I'm not going to delay any further. I'm going to ask Peter Chapman from the City of Richmond to come up and say a few words, and then we'll hear from our CEO from the Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority, Ms. Adrienne Goolsby.
Lena, she's so warm and engaging. It's always so difficult for me to follow behind the wonderful Valina. I'm not going to speak long. I see a lot of familiar faces here because we've really been working at this for a while, even though this is the official kickoff to this leg of the process. We've really been engaging the community for several years now on a pretty bold vision to transform communities and really transform lives. I mean, that's what this is about. I oversee economic development and planning and all that good stuff for the city, and I can say with confidence that even though we have a ton of things in our pipeline of projects, down and riverfront stuff, this is really the most transformational effort that we have in our pipeline. And I say that I don't take those words lightly. And for me, it is the most important. It is the most meaningful. And so, on behalf of the city, on behalf of Mayor Jones, I want to again thank all of you for coming out this evening and encourage your continued participation. What is very, very important about the work that we're getting ready to undertake together is you, the residents, you, the community stakeholders, you really shape this process. And at the end of the process, you know, there's the new housing, there is perhaps more commercial development. There are other, you know, important things that, you know, contribute to what we call neighborhood revitalization. But you are shaping those things, and that's what is so important about this effort for us. So again, I thank you and encourage your heartfelt, you know, remarks this evening, your thoughtful remarks. Don't hold back. We want to hear from you as we take the next step in crafting what we hope will be a successful application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to give us some resources to support this process. So, with that said, I will turn the floor over to my partner, Ms. Goolsby.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone. I'm Adrienne Goolsby, and I'm the CEO of the Richmond Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Before we start talking about today's topic, I first of all want to thank all of the individuals who've come out in the audience to participate. First of all, I would like to say thank you to my City of Richmond counterparts and all of the employees with the Economic Community Development Department. I'd like to highlight Councilwoman Newbill, who is here representing this district and who has been a partner in this entire effort from the beginning. I would like to also highlight our master developer team who are here. Thank you for being here in the audience, as well as RRHA staff who are here in support of this initiative, our tenant council representatives for the Creighton Whitcomb area, as well as all of you the community members, and our community partners. So thank you for coming out on this lovely evening and sharing and spending a little bit of time trying to get a better perspective on what we're doing from a community revitalization perspective. So I'm just going to say a few things. I know that we have some slides that are going to be going on in the background, and I'm sure that Ms. Valina will keep me on track because I have a tendency to kind of go off script. So I'll try to stay along the script in the interim, but we'll have an opportunity to have a conversation a little later. So when we're talking about revitalization as an opportunity, this has been something that has been in the making even prior to my appearance here in the city of Richmond. And it's about revitalization of the 9 Mile Road corridor as well as the Creighton Court public housing development. A number of charrettes have been done as well as planning grants have been submitted over the last few years. And we believe that it is right and it is time for Richmond, the city of Richmond, RRHA, and the community to actually receive and get awarded one of these planning grants. And it's called Choice Neighborhoods. Ms. Juanita Buster will give you a lot more detail around what that means and what we're going to do to apply for it. But we want to make sure that we get everyone's voices heard at this point in the initial phases of this process. The second piece is when we're talking about opportunity, we're talking about mixed incomes, okay? And mixed incomes means a variety of economic mixtures, all the way from, I can be technical about it, but we're talking about market rate, we're talking about affordable or workforce housing, as well as public housing. We believe here in the city of Richmond, and this is a model across the nation, that dispersing poverty so that it's not concentrated in one area allows us to have better communities for our neighborhoods, better environments for our children, better environments for families and seniors to thrive. And so this is something that we want to embark upon and we want to do here in this area. And then lastly, services for our families. One of the things that I continue to quote when you look at public housing for RRHA, 53% of our leaseholders are children, okay? And when we're talking about children, these are children who are being reared and are living in public housing now. So we want to see how can we create a better environment for them. It's not just about bricks and mortar, guys. I know everybody's thinking about, we gotta get the new house, we gotta get the new playground, we gotta get the new school. It's about how do we change the essence of everyone's lives and how do we present opportunities for the community as well as our public housing residents to have the ability to work together to change that sentiment as we move forward. When we look at our guiding principles for public housing revitalization, the first thing, and I think it's key, we commit to engaging the community. We commit to engaging our public housing residents in this planning process. Planning doesn't happen one way. I'm not quite sure how it's been done in the past. I know that you all have met together as a community in the past. One of the things that I will dedicate to you all as the leader of the RRHA is that we will have full circle communication. Communication from community participants, communication from residents, communications from the city side, communications from RRHA, and communication all the way around to plan the revitalization effort. This makes for a better product at the end. And so, as I've always stated, we might not always agree, but what we want to do is to build consensus amongst all of us in order to come up with the best product at the end. Secondly, we've had a lot of questions around how do I become a part of this community? Does it mean that I move out of the community? When is relocation going to take place? How is that going to take place? So one of the things that we've talked about is that, first of all, this is the planning process. I need all community participants, all residents to be focused on planning first. Relocation, as far as when demolition and all of that would take place, would not take place for at least 3 years. At least 3 years. And during that time frame, though, we've got to come up with what the plan looks like from a redevelopment standpoint, and we've got to make sure that there are choices for our residents. Choices as far as where you would like to live, what type of opportunities would you like to see? Are there opportunities for home ownership? Are there opportunities to live in other areas where there's going to be affordable housing within the city? Are there opportunities later that you can engage upon. But we want to make sure that there are choices. And I don't know if in the past there have been choices, but people should have the ability to choose where they want to live and when they want to return. All residents who are lease compliant should have the ability to return. But let me be clear. I'm going to be clear about this. Lease compliancy, everyone has more details around it, but I talk about two basic aspects of lease compliance. One is you pay your rent on time. I need you to pay your rent. And then secondly, I don't need any criminal issues, okay? So we don't have any criminal charges. Now, I know there's some other things. I got Carol back there who's like, now, you know there's some other things, but I'm going to tell you those are two basic things that I need to make sure that people are keeping up with as we go through this process. The other piece is that everyone will have a home. Now, I can't promise that you're going to have a home in this area. What I can say is that we will replace the housing in the city of Richmond, okay? And so we're trying to disperse that notion of poverty and make sure that we have an integrated and well-balanced economic diversity. So I can't promise where it's going to be. I can't promise what the exact unit is going to be at this time. That's something that we as a team determine as we move forward in the planning process. Another piece is there's a personal care manager that will be assigned to each family. So that personal care manager or managers will actually work with each family to identify what are their choices and what does it take to get to those choices. And what does it mean that you need to do in order to make sure that those choices come to fruition? So we want to make sure that residents are covered as far as what does it mean to have choice and that you actually have those things in place as we move towards the continuum of relocation. Lastly, would we love everyone to have a job? Yes, we would. But we understand that the economy can be rough. We have opportunities where you can link to workforce development opportunities with the city, as well as with other partners. So we want to make sure that we link people to those type of areas from a training standpoint, as well as from an employment standpoint. But this is the thing. Does it have to happen tomorrow? No, but we can start planning for it today. And so I want to make sure that, I know people have seen articles that have been in the newspaper over the last few weeks. I want to make sure that people understand that the relocation process is a continuous process, and it doesn't happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen in a year and a half. We're talking about we need to plan what this redevelopment area is going to look like, and then we need to move forward to figure out together how does relocation work. Our community, the community builders, they are our master developer that's been selected. I know they're here in the audience. At the end of this process, you're going to get tired of seeing them. You're really going to get tired of seeing me. But they're the ones who are going to bring together all of the different groups and stakeholders in this process so that we can come up with the best answers. So when people are talking about, oh, I want to have a grocery store, or oh, I want to have a new school, or oh, I think that we need these kind of amenities, we're thinking about communities on a broad standpoint, not just buildings and changing the bricks and mortar, but we're talking about how do you build a community? What kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? And how do you want to see it thriving? The community builders, as the master developer, they are the ones who are going to help put all those different ideas together and help lay out what those choices should be. And they're going to help us find financing to make sure that we have money over multiple phases in order for that to take place. And I'm going to hand it over now to Juanita Buster, who's going to give you all the details around what Chase Neighborhoods is and what the planning grant would entail. Thank you, Juanita.
Good afternoon. My name is Juanita Buster, and I'm with the City of Richmond. I work for the Department of Economic and Community Development. And I'd like to talk to you about choice neighborhoods, a term we've been throwing around for a while. Choice neighborhoods is a mission, really, of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It is part of their goal that neighborhoods provide for residents those things they need to have a good quality of life. Good schools, good retail, good services, good streets, that people are comfortable in their neighborhood and that people can thrive in their neighborhood. It's about reducing isolation
of some areas and making it all part of the whole. In addition to a mission for HUD, it is also a funding stream. It funds planning activities and it also funds implementation activities. As Ms. Goolsby mentioned, we're going for a planning grant. This will be our third and successful try at a planning grant with HUD. The planning grant will give us that opportunity to look at the details necessary to make a sustainable community. When we finish this planning process, we will have such detail that in that plan that we can then step off and start doing. Because in the end, that's what we want to do. We want to do, not just plan. We want to do. The planning process, as Ms. Goolsby indicated, takes time, takes a lot of talking, takes a lot of meetings, and in the end, you're going to hear a very passionate plea for you to become involved in all of that, because without you, this process will not, I repeat, will not be successful. We really do need you to participate and to stay with us through this continued conversation around transforming the East End. HUD has three components to its planning process: people, housing, and neighborhoods. And as we go through this process, we will touch on each one of those aspects in some detail. When you talk about people, what are we talking about? We're talking about helping folks have positive outcomes in health, education, safety, employment, and all of those are for the residents of public housing and also for your neighbors who do not live in public housing. The people who live in the housing across the street, down the street, the people whose kids go to the same schools that your children go to. It's about, again, community. So there's the people aspect. There's also housing. Yes, we do want to transform public housing. Much of it was built in the early 1950s. It's a little challenged now. So it is time, we believe, to take on public housing, to make it more modern, to help it serve its residents better, and to help it be a positive force within the neighborhood. Our goal is public housing that does not look like public housing, that is fully integrated into the community, that you cannot drive down the street and say, oh, that's for public housing. That is our goal. And neighborhoods, we are looking to transform poverty areas into mixed income areas, healthy communities, good schools, services, and access to jobs. That is our goal. That is our goal. And we will spend a lot of time trying to reach a plan, to create a plan that helps us reach all of those goals. The grant is for $500,000. We're going for the maximum. We will be matching it with additional dollars, but we know there's a lot that has to be accomplished, and we plan to go for the maximum $500,000. The grant is to be submitted by May 28th this month. It's a 2-year planning grant. Ms. Goolsby talked again about it takes time. We will not be doing this tomorrow or the day after. 18 months, 2 years. It's going to take some time to pull it all together. Our lead applicant will be our new partner, Community Builders, and the City of Richmond and the Housing Authority will be co-applicants to this process. We will prepare, HUD requires, but it's just common sense. We will do a comprehensive plan. That plan will, again, address people, housing, neighborhoods, in all aspects. We are required to do one-for-one replacement, and when you listen to Ms. Goolsby talk about the Housing Authority's commitment to its residents, they are committed to one-for-one replacement of public housing. All of it will not be replaced on Creighton site. As part of that planning process, we will be looking at options, where to locate some public housing in other parts of the East End, possibly, and also other parts of the city. But one-for-one replacement of public housing is the requirement and the goal. We're working to make sure residents are involved. Residents will help develop relocation plans and again, contribute to that discussion of where do we put public housing. Again, it will not all be on the Creighton site. So what are our options? Let's talk about those in that planning process. In this grant, there is a strong, I emphasize strong emphasis on education, especially preschool. Our goal, with that 53% of public housing being children, our goal is to create for those children the best we can, to give them the best we can. They deserve the best that we can offer. We definitely will have some serious conversations around preschool, middle school, high school, options past high school, and second chances. Those of us who may not have completed high school, how do we go back and get a GED or other vocational training? That's also part of the discussion. We're looking to create task force and committees to talk about various topics and to have people develop ideas and strategies around those topics. Again, there are opportunities for you to participate. Join a committee, be on a task force, talk to us so that we can all work to get this done. There will be a survey of all the residents of public housing so that we can know what their housing needs are. Having that survey will help us and help us as a team come up with the strategies for relocation, the strategies for coming back, the strategies for helping those households move forward. What do they need? What services do we need to make sure are available for our residents? Again, talking partnerships. There are a lot of groups working now in the East End. We want to take that energy and make it, harness it, bring it together and help it become more efficient and effective. There are several initiatives going on in Woodville, like the micro initiative. We've got Richmond Promise Neighborhood. How do we connect with what's already going on so that we can move it to the next level and we can all achieve what we're trying to achieve? Planning for mixed income, mixed use housing. 1950s, there were some things that we didn't even think about in 1950s that we now take for granted. How do we make housing more efficient for those of us who live in it? Cost effective, so that we can keep the bills lower while we enjoy where we live. So we're planning for affordable rental and home ownership opportunities that will be in the communities around Creighton. Some of it will be on the Creighton site possibly, and then other parts of the city. Affordable rental, affordable housing, owner-occupied. What's our strategy to get there? How do we get there? And we've talked about how do we replace it. Ms. Gooseby mentioned discussions around phasing of public housing, or just how do we take care of what we're going to do with Creighton. Help us prepare that strategy. Make it real. Help us make it real. Again, you may have heard the mayor speak to deconcentrating public housing, that was a strategy that may have worked at one time, but right now it's just not effective. So how do we move public housing around? We want to create mixed income communities that include public housing, but also include other forms of affordable housing and market rate housing. How do we do that? We will replace public housing in the East End, but we may select a strategic number that placed in other parts of the city. That's how we move toward that goal of deconcentrating public housing and deconcentrating poverty. And then too, some folks may just want to live on the other side of town. I've got a sister that's a south side sister. She's just not going to come on this side of the river. Somebody else may want that opportunity as well. We may be able to do that through our strategic planning process. We're going to look at the resources we have to help us achieve that goal. For example, the former Armstrong site. Is that a possibility to help us achieve some of the things we want to achieve with this planning process? We've been planning in the East End. We had the charrette about 3 years ago, and we've been continuing to implement pieces of that and also just continue to refine it. Through this planning process, we will continue to look at that East End vision. It may still serve us well. We may want to alter aspects of it. Talk to us, talk with us. Help us look at these things so that we can decide what works best in terms of the new grocery store, the new library, the beautification of 9 Mile Road. How do we approach these activities? Jobs, a big piece of this. We want to create opportunities for jobs in the East End. This may afford us that opportunity. We look at the corridor, we look at where we are located, we look at our good bus transportation services in the East End. How do we take advantage of those assets to bring jobs to the East End? Sometimes, if you can walk to work, that's a savings in the budget. How do we get jobs in the East End? How do we take advantage of jobs in other parts of the city and the region? How do we get to those jobs? Let's talk about that in this planning process. And again, we want to reduce some of the, well, we want to reduce all the blight that you see around here. It's not just redeveloping Creighton, but also revitalizing, changing the setting in which Creighton sits. We do have blighted properties. How do we deal with those? What do we do as a group to address that problem? Finally, East End transformation is not just a document, and this application is not just about getting together and talking and making a plan, then we'll put it aside. It's about creating a document that we can then take and do. Because again, the focus is on the doing and the creating and the moving forward. It is not about creating a plan that's not realistic that will sit on a shelf. Help us do. Help us do. We really and truly want you to participate through a committee, through a task force, through a conversation, through an email. However you want to do it. I want to see you from the beginning. And I also want to see you in the end, when we cross that finish line and we have that plan finished. And you'll be standing there with us as we take that plan and start doing it. Thank you.
Juanita and Ms. Goolsby, and we know we've had a lot of information coming to you this evening, a lot to take in. And so now we're going to take the opportunity to answer any questions that you might have this evening. Ms. Goolsby has to leave, but she's well represented here this evening by other RRHA staff. Would other staff please raise your hand? Other RRHA staff, please raise your hand. Thank you, thank you. They are all a part of this process, as are you. And so this evening is just the beginning. It's just the beginning of an ongoing dialogue, ongoing work. You know that phrase, you plan your work, but then you have to do what? Work your plan. And so tonight is the start for us. So we're here to take questions. We have some little cards if you'd like to write your question down. You see, I don't always need a microphone. You can write your question down, or we'll take your question, and we'll certainly try to answer it to the best of our ability. Is Stephanie Horton with us this evening? Okay. Carol, you may want to come up front. Carol Jones-Gilbert is our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, and she works very closely with our Chief Operating Officer, Stephanie Horton, who has the responsibility for all of our day-to-day operations as it relates to our housing assets. Everything from our public housing program to our resident services to our housing choice voucher or Section 8 program. So Carol will be available to answer any questions as well. Do we have any questions this evening?
Yes, ma'am. My question is, y'all talking about revitalizing this place and, making it look new and all of that. Um, I don't know how to put this in an appropriate way. I don't want to make no racial terms, but I noticed that they're building up in this community within now my road, 25th Street area where the library is, and it's not our kind that's there. It's not affordable for us. And I feel like this is being built mainly for people who are already wealthy or well off. So the question is, what are y'all gonna do for us that have fixed incomes and that are not able to work and that are disabled and get disability, and other people as well that might not be able to afford regular rent or $500 or $600 rent? Where are we gonna go? Are we gonna just be out in the street or in other project developments? I think that it should be a fair thing where everybody should be placed in housing that they can afford, because everybody might not be able to afford this. And personally, I don't think that this is being built for us. And I don't want to support something that's not going to be for me or the community as well as the other residents in this area.
We appreciate your comments and for being here this evening so you can get all the information that you need. There are a
Yes,
couple
ma'am.
of ways and a couple of segments of responding to your question. And I'll start by saying you are in this plan, okay? The families that live in Creighton are in this plan. You're in this process. I want to take you back to a couple of slides when we talked about the mixed income. It will be opportunities for everything from our public housing families, meaning families that currently reside in Creighton Court, up through a mix of various incomes. The other way that you're in this plan is that we will reflect services and needs that our families will have. So it is very inclusive, and that's why we need you here tonight, so that we can be sure we hear everyone's concerns and work through that and get you the information and provide you the opportunity to be involved in this process. You are in this plan. And so, Juanita, did you want to?
Public housing will be rebuilt here. All of it may not be rebuilt on the Creighton site, but some of it will be. Public housing will be rebuilt in the city of Richmond. HUD requires that for every unit we take down, we put another one up. The public housing criteria that you live under now, my understanding is it is still the same. It's based on your income. So you will, as Danina said, public housing residents will be in this plan. We can't say today what the address will be, but some of it will be in the East End. I'm fairly sure some of it will be on the current Creighton site. Some of it will be on blocks surrounding it possibly. But what it will not be is it will not look like public housing. It will still be, it will serve you and your family, but it will not look like public housing.
Thank you.
Why did y'all choose Creighton?
That's an interesting one. We started with Blackwell. We've had some success with Blackwell and some challenges. Then we went to Dove, which was smaller, is smaller. And the idea was that we would use Dove to see what we can do better. Then the discussion a few years back was around Gilpin. We decided Gilpin was too big. Gilpin is 1,200 as opposed to 400 or 500. So we needed to build up our redevelopment skills, if that's the best way I can put that. We have good skills, but to take on Gilpin, we needed to make sure we could successfully do Dove in a smaller unit. Creighton has many amenities. I'm sorry, East End has many amenities. We had already started our Neighborhoods in Bloom program here. When the lady spoke about some of the work that's going on around 25th Street, that's Neighborhoods in Bloom. We felt that we could build on that. So Creighton seemed to be a good opportunity to try to do that.
As Ms. Buster said, building on the momentum and the planning experience that we've had in the East End gives us a good opportunity to take this to the next level by applying for this planning grant through the Choice Program. You've got momentum with our Richmond Promise Neighborhoods. Maybe you've met some people from the Promise Neighborhoods Initiative that have been out talking with families about creating educational opportunities for our children. So we're building on a lot of that momentum, envisioning, and planning that has been occurring in the East End as well.
But you say, Gifton is too big, so why you couldn't fit into it?
Well, a lot of it is being very strategic with the limited resources that we have. And so with the opportunity of looking at the East End, the visioning process that began back in 2010, and really building on that and saying where can we really achieve the success and take advantage of resources that are available to make sure that we're working smarter so we can bring the vision to life.
Well, why did y'all put all this money into redoing the apartments, and then y'all gonna tear it down? Why y'all put all this money into it, and now y'all gonna tear it down and build more? Y'all using...
Well, now don't forget, it's still going to be a good 3, 5, 8, 10 years for the entire revitalization to occur. That's number one. Number two, we have a day-to-day responsibility to make sure that our units are safe and secure, and we're providing the best housing that we can. So when we had that opportunity through the stimulus grant, we applied that to our Creighton community. Now, when we get to the point, after we've done the planning and we've got an implementation grant, we still have to work towards that, we will be very explicit in looking at the resources that are in Creighton to see what can be used within our other inventory. So we're very conscientious about using our dollars wisely. So the dollars that we're investing in Creighton were to make the situation better for our existing families, knowing we've still got a good 3, 5, 10 years to go for total revitalization. Harold, is there anything else you'd like to add? Okay. All right. Yes.
You mentioned about services. I just, want to know, like, what services in particular are you all going to be having within this planning developed for the community?
Thank you for the opportunity to bring you a commercial this evening. I can't speak about the future because that's the work that we're going to do. But right now, we have staff that are available to you to sit with you right now to talk about what services you might want to review or to discuss for you and your family. They're used to me making them raise their hands in the back. We have our family services, resident services staff. They're here for you tonight. So even though we know this is going to be a planning process, you can get started right now. And that's always my commercial that I carry anywhere that I go. We know we've still got 3, 5, 10 years for the total revitalization, but we can get started right now. So thank you for asking that question. And then Juanita,
One of the comments we've heard, at least I've heard at least for the past 4 or 5 years, is on the private side, people say, we see you can do houses, but where are the services? Where's the retail? Where are the things that add to community? One of the several parts of what we want to discuss in this planning process is how do we increase those services? How do we bring more retail to the East End? Retail that provides products, but also provide jobs. How do we improve recreation in the East End? Most of our parks are closer to Broad. How do we bring parks and greater recreation to this section of the East End? How do we improve our streets? We are starting to improve streets. We've done sidewalks, curbs, and gutters on S Street and portions of R Street, but we've got more to do. So it's about improving what we can as we move forward through this planning process. We're not going to wait until the plan is done. This is iterative. We will be doing things while we're planning so that we can bring more services to the East End.
Thank you. Thank you for the information you've provided thus far. One of the things I found to be extremely helpful was to go to a site and really see what we're talking about when we're talking about transforming communities. So my question is this: while I understand we won't be able to board planes to go to Atlanta, Norfolk is nearby, and where you can see a development that has from public housing straight up to six-figure housing, that has green space, that they're thinking about recreational space and school. What does that look like more tangibly? Were you able to talk to the residents who live there and understand the impact on them? And so hopefully there'll be some site visits, at least to Norfolk? Is that accurate? Okay, there you go.
Yes, there will be.
Okay, because I think that would help folks see what it is that we're talking about. When we head out on a trip, you know, we have in our mind kind of a map of, you know, this is a little different for us. And so that would be extremely helpful.
Yes, that's clearly going to be a part
It
of
is.
our planning process. Yes. Any other questions this evening? You have another question, ma'am?
Yes, so, I was saying that it will be affordable for us, which is a good thing. But it's not a promise that all of us will come back to Creighton Court specifically. Okay, so will the long-term residents be able to come back to Creighton? Will
That
they have
entire
option?
process, we have to work through. We have the commitment for one-to-one replacement. You will have somewhere to reside. As we talked about, as long as we're lease compliant, and lease compliance was the major factor. But yes, we still have to work through all of those details, okay? And that's why we want you to come back when we start planning our meetings, when we start having our work sessions. Please come out.
Okay.
We have a phone number now that we have available to you. We had a handout tonight, and at the bottom of that handout, there's a phone number that you can call us now if you just want to leave a question. We can get back to you, but we will have lots to discuss and lots to work out as to how everything is going to come together. All the pieces will come together. Yes.
I just would like to ask this question. I was going to say about like these compliant tenants. And I would like to know whether it's the family services, but what is going to be implemented to help the people that's not lease compliant to become lease compliant? Because you can't take for granted that everybody know how to pay rent on time or how to be responsible tenant, how to be a desirable tenant. So what services will come in to help those that may not have the knowledge of how to be a desirable tenant?
No. What I say is the most important step is the first step. Picking up the phone, calling the family services team, and I'll give the phone number, 780-4835. That's one call. The second call is your manager. Ms. Campbell, stand up. Ms. Campbell is available to you every day. She's available every day. If you have an issue that you want to talk through, that you want to work through, work with Ms. Campbell. So between Ms. Campbell and our family services team, that's what's available to you right now. And if you feel as though you need some support in your household, we've got various agencies across the city, agencies right in the East End, some agencies which actually come right on site in Creighton. You have your Health Resource Center that's run by the Richmond City Health District that's available to you. They have wonderful programs and services right there. So we're available today and every day. You don't have to wait for the formal planning process. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But the two most important steps, talking with your manager and talking with family services.
Okay, you all send out information, you know, because some people may not know. Some people may get information, they may not know how to read. So
Yeah.
there really needs to be some step to help, you know, help some of the people to get where your desire for them to be.
I agree totally. We are always looking for ways to improve our communication and our engagement, always, always. We try some of the standard methods of newsletters. Do you read your newspaper, the Spirit newspaper? Okay, good. Good, my ego's not too bruised. Okay, good. You read your Spirit. We send out flyers. We try to have events. We post information in the management office. We have our family services staff who will be more engaged on a day-to-day basis in the community. But no, we're always looking for ways to improve that communication and engagement. And if you have an idea, share it with us. Okay? Share it with us. Oh, and your tenant council. Yes, excuse me. Your tenant council is also available to you. Yes, thank you.
This may have been clear and I missed it. The planning grant is due May 28th, it's submitted. Is it pretty much a given that that will be accepted and that money will be received? And if it is, great. I mean, if not, is there a backup plan for that?
It's not a given. This is our third try, but we're hoping that third time's the success. But we're committed to planning with or without that grant. We will move forward. That commitment is there. It's easier to do it with the money, but if we don't get the money, we will strategize around how to get it done, but we will get it done.
Well, we have some next steps. We had a handout for you this evening. Please hold on to that handout because you might want to refer to it. It just gave you a brief overview of the components of what the Choice Neighborhoods program is all about. We have a phone number there for you, the 780-4344. If you have any questions that once you go home tonight, if you have some more questions, call that number and we will respond. And then we've got to get the application done. So we've got to get that in, and we have a great team that's working together to get that submitted. And as Juanita said, we will keep working. We'll keep having meetings with you. We'll get started on this process, and we look for you to be involved with us. So when meeting notices come out, please come. If you can't make the meeting, give us a call. Maybe we can get you involved in some other way, but please stay in touch with us and we will stay in touch with you. And any other closing comments? Well, thank you for coming out this evening. Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, first of all, Dove Court is now Highland Grove. It is going through its revitalization, and the first phase of apartments are coming out the ground as we speak. There is a mixture of units in Highland Grove. There's an application process, but right now the management company has reached its limit and they're not taking any new applications right now, okay? But again, you can call that number, 780-4344, and we will get your information. But the trailer, which is right there, I think on First and Dove, they're not taking any more applications at this time. I can't speak to all of the assets in the Highland Grove area. Your closest grocery store would be coming back in to the Kroger on Lombardi. Or if you have transportation, access to a vehicle, then you could probably go,
You can, well, I hate to say it, but you could go to Brook Road, which is in the county, so you didn't hear me say that. One of the things that the council person for that district is focused on is how to get more retail on North Avenue. It's smaller, so we may not be able to get a grocery store, traditional grocery store, but we are looking to try to get retail on North Avenue. And we're also working seriously with Brooklyn Park Boulevard to see what kind of services we can bring to Brooklyn Park Boulevard. We're a landlocked city, and we take advantages of opportunities when they come. Unfortunately, it's difficult to find a place to land a grocery store near Highland Grove, but we are still trying to do that.
thank you for that question. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you coming out. Make sure you signed in so we can be sure to stay in touch with you. Thank you again.